The officer told the new recruits to pick up their rifles, but when he turned around, he saw there was still one left. He demanded to know why Doss refused to take a gun, and Doss said he had sworn never to touch one. The officer snapped, asking why he even joined the army if he wouldn't hold a weapon. But no matter how much he was yelled at, Doss stood firm. The situation quickly reached the captain, who ordered that if Doss wouldn't take a rifle, he would be discharged for psychological issues. From that moment on, he was bullied every day. He was assigned the dirtiest, hardest work, and everyone mocked him as a coward. A few days later, the psychiatrist's evaluation finally came back, and Doss had no mental problems. Now, no one had the legal right to force him out. When the sergeant heard the news, he was furious. He flipped over Doss's bed, calling it a filthy pigsty, and as punishment, the entire barracks was ordered to run 20 kilometers. That night, Doss was jolted awake when several men ambushed him, beating him until his face was covered in blood, and even his pillow was soaked red. When the sergeant asked who had done this to him, Doss quietly said he had gotten up to use the bathroom and slipped. That one sentence changed how everyone saw him, but in the end, the sergeant still gave him an ultimatum. If Doss refused to touch a gun, he would be court-martialed. Thinking of his fiancée waiting at home for their wedding, Doss looked at the rifle handed to him, tears filling his eyes, yet he still chose to refuse. Soon after, he was locked in a dark, cramped cell. When the court was just about to discharge him for refusing to carry a rifle, the door suddenly swung open. Doss's father walked in wearing a faded military uniform, but his rank and medals still shone. Everyone was stunned. He pulled a letter from his pocket, and it stated clearly that under a 1940 act passed by Congress, the constitutional rights of conscientious objectors were protected, including the right to refuse carrying weapons. The sergeant finally withdrew all charges. Doss could continue serving as a combat medic. In 1945, the 77th Infantry Division received orders to head to the Pacific Front. After a long journey, the troops arrived on Okinawa. In the brutal bombardment that followed, the unit's original 300 men were reduced to just 32. When everyone else retreated, Doss was the only one who stayed on the cliffside battlefield to rescue the wounded. In one night, he pushed himself to the limit and saved 75 soldiers who had been left for dead. He became a hero, and every man who once mocked him as a coward now stood in awe of him. Doss was no longer just a soldier. He had become the soul of his unit. Near the end of the battle, Japanese troops pretended to surrender and waved a white flag, then threw 2 grenades toward the American position. In the final moment, Doss threw himself onto the explosion, using his own body to save his brothers in arms.